What's responsible is to demonstrate a commitment towards growth for the middle class by making sure that we are responding to the very real needs of Canadians.
What does that mean? I mean, really, what does that mean? I've listened to that clip and I've tried to figure out what exactly does that say, and all I see is an air bubble with nothing in it. I mean, this is what Mr. Trudeau was saying after like weeks of silence on some pretty big issues, terror issues, economic issues. And, you know, we've got this 2-day meeting going on in London where we're finally hearing from the Liberal leader. And these are the questions he's being asked and the answers to them. I don't know. Michael Diamond joins us now. I'm not trying to be mean, but this is a gentleman who wants to be the Prime Minister of the country being asked questions about the economy and terror, and you get nothing really but platitudes. And I'm not sure why he's not getting any pushback, but he doesn't.
You know, and it's even more confusing, that statement, when you remember a few months back, Justin Trudeau can't even define what the middle class is to him and his party for the purpose of their platform. So really, that meaningless statement becomes even more confusing. Why is he not getting pushback? I mean, you know, he has a lot of media appeal. He's injected some excitement into the Liberal Party. Remember, you know, they had two very boring and lackluster leaders. The media, obviously, they love a good race, and Justin Trudeau has been poised to promise that, unlike what we had seen in the past from the Liberal Party. You know, Jack Layton's gone. There's a bit of less excitement in the NDP because of that. So, you know, obviously, you know, people want to see an exciting election campaign, but it's not going to be a very exciting election campaign if the leader of the third party is receiving no scrutiny, while using a whole bunch of words to say absolutely nothing.
My guess is that they're getting the coverage from the local London media, who are probably a little bit more young, go out to this Trudeau thing, get us a couple of clips, and so there's literally like a younger reporter probably just listening and then reporting back to the newsroom saying, yeah, I got him, he said something about this. Whereas, look, if I were at that event, I would have been cackling in the background, because I would have literally been like, excuse me, what does that mean? Because it doesn't say anything. He just is pushing it off because he does not want to commit to announcing any policy. He also doesn't want to really put himself in a corner on anything, because he's sitting back in a pretty nice position, I might say. I talked about it with Ian Lee. He's in a good position right now. He's not committed to anything, so he can sit back and watch the financial situation as it evolves. And he's in a position where he can criticize the Prime Minister on things, but again, he's not saying anything.
You know, and I think for Canadians, if they're going to see criticism, people are becoming more and more cynical about politics. They want to see actually an alternative. And I think for Justin Trudeau, we saw the Conservative ads about a year ago saying he's just in over his head, that he's not ready to be Prime Minister. And I think the way that he and the Liberals should be combating that narrative is by actually throwing out concrete and good policy ideas for Canadians. I just don't think they have the confidence for him to go and carry that message.
Right. Okay. So Jack Layton, who had some flair, at least you could go back and see his political positioning on things. People had a good idea of who he was, where he was coming from, because they could look back to a lengthy career in municipal politics. And so they had a feeling of who he was. With Ignatieff, again, you knew exactly where he was coming from on things, because whether I agreed with him or not, he was a pretty educated and smart guy. But my concern is, you know, he can criticize the Prime Minister all he wants, but in order for him to carry through his visions, and the only thing I know about it other than pot, is that he plans on infrastructure spending, which is very, very expensive. His friend Kathleen Wynne just demanded $30 billion from the feds to fulfill her campaign promises, but his are going to be pretty expensive too. As long as oil's in the dumps, he can't pay for his promises either. And he's not being asked, how are you going to pay for your platform?
Well, exactly. And at some point, you know, Justin Trudeau will have to put some meat on the bones. And, you know, they're not giving us the impression that they're confident that he'll be able to do that. They'll be able to go out and give concrete campaign promises, a costed plan. You know, obviously, you know, it's quite early and we shouldn't expect Liberals to unveil their entire platform. But again, when you're trying to combat the image that Justin Trudeau's vacuous, that he's just in over his head, as the Conservative ads had been telling Canadians he is, I think it's time that they start combating that with actual substance.
So at what point does he start getting into trouble? I mean, I read one article where, you know, a national paper said, you know, he's being prudent. Okay, you know, fine. He's sitting back and waiting to see what the landscape looks like before he marches out, you know, policy. But at what point does he start really feeling pressure? to come up with something, because that answer's not going to fly when he's on the national scene. If that's the kind of answer he's going to give election time, he should be ripped to shreds.
Imagine if he gives that answer during a debate, and he'll be getting it from two very serious leaders on both sides, on his left and his right, who are not going to accept an answer like that on a televised debate. Now, I think we're already seeing some pressure from Canadians, because we are seeing poll numbers, and obviously, poll numbers are not a perfect science, but we are seeing that people are, the honeymoon period, if you will, has seemed to fade, and Justin Trudeau is being evaluated a bit more fairly now than he had been. Canadians are taking off the rose-colored glasses. So I think right now also we're seeing the situation change. If you look when he was riding high in the polls, there was a honeymoon phase, of course, but also things were pretty good. The Canadian economy was strong and getting stronger. The world appeared to be safe. Now, those two things have changed, and it might be counterintuitive to think that an incumbent government will benefit from bad economic times. But I think if you look how Canada performed during the 2008 meltdown compared to our counterparts on the world stage, I think Canadians actually have a lot of confidence in Stephen Harper, and a good economy actually could be harmful for him, because at that point you're comfortable in your job, you're comfortable in your personal economy. You don't really need Stephen Harper as Prime Minister. You can go and try the guy who's not saying much but has nice hair. But when there's real stakes in an election, people are going to want tried and true leadership, and I think they have confidence in the Prime Minister's ability to protect the economy.
Well, look, he does have an understanding of economy. That's his background, so you can hate Harper all you want, but when you're putting the two of them together, Harper does have a strong understanding of, I think, navigating choppy waters. But if the economy is bad for Trudeau or Mulcair, it's equally as hurtful to them, because they have to somehow explain how they're going to deliver on these expensive campaign promises. We know that Mulcair wants to do federal daycare. That's expensive, and you can't pay for it if you don't have anything in the bank to pay for.
Shrinking tax base is not the time to bring in new entitlement programs. And unlike the Prime Minister, they won't be able to point to a track record of steering Canada through very, very tough international economic times. Now Canada's going to feel it a bit more than some of our counterparts, but the Prime Minister is the one of these three leaders with a track record that Canadians have seen his leadership and can trust.
And so how do you see it playing out for the next little while? Because we are in campaign mode. Every single appearance, we know that the Prime Minister today is in St. Catharines. I think it kind of came out yesterday that he was going to be making this announcement. I don't know what the announcement is. It's money for something. How do you see this playing out for the Prime Minister, for Trudeau and Mulcair? Because the Prime Minister is being attacked for putting all his eggs in one basket, and that he has no plans. His balanced budget's going, to the tubes, and his spending promises can't be delivered on. So he's getting attacked from the opposition. How do you see it playing out for him?
I think he'll stay the course and really, be strong and robust in his statements, and I think we're going to see more of that. I think the budget is going to be, very interesting heading into the election, the last budget for this government. I think, what's quite concerning would be for Tom Mulcair that he's looking at it and he's just irrelevant. Like, where's he in this debate? The House of Commons is not sitting, and when the House of Commons is not sitting, it appears that nobody's paying attention to what the NDP are saying.
But he still says things.
He says things.
The difference is that at least when Mulcair talks, he says something.
Oh, absolutely, and yeah, he delivers substantive promises. I mean, we've actually seen important policy discussions coming out of the NDP, where the Liberals will continue to speak in platitudes, talk about marijuana, and talk about abortion, two issues that Canadians, especially in bad economic times, not really on anybody's radar. No. So we're seeing, three different versions of leadership. Two are quite serious, and I think the one of those that Canadians are going to want to elect during the election will be the one that has a proven track record in protecting an economy in troubled times.
Quickly, just before we let you go, what will the line of questioning be with the PM today?
I think we're going to see about the continued international mission. I mean, there was obviously interesting things on both sides with Keystone in the State of the Union, on both the Republican response and the president's statements. And of course, Hillary Clinton's been in Canada the last few days and has made some interesting statements, so probably some of that as well.
I should ask you this because I'm curious. When that summit is held in Washington in the next couple of weeks, what role will Harper play? Will he stand back, or do you get the sense that he'll be speaking out?
I think we'll absolutely speaking out. We have not seen this Prime Minister taking a back seat on the world stage, and I don't think he's going to change that now. And
his last appearance at the UN, though, surprised me a little. I thought he'd take a more forceful approach on terror, and he ended up talking about women's issues in third world countries. Will that be the same at this?
No, I think we'll see more of what Canadians are expecting.
I guess I'm asking, will he be definitely showing up the president on this?
Yeah, once again, I think he'll show that he's the leader of the free world on many of these issues.
Interesting. All right, we'll continue talking about this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Michael Diamond joining us here at the table.